In an interview back in January 2025, the CEO for Kuro Games said he wanted Wuthering Waves to be remembered amongst the greatest open world action games. If you saw my last video, you remember me starting that video off with this quote. I'm bringing it up here too because I want to make it known I'm not hating. I've been rooting for the game since the Chinese closed beta test, and I want to hold the game to the same standard the devs hold it themselves. The new combat event, Stranger Things in Honami, shows they still have a long way to go. On paper, it's not a bad event. You essentially choose from an unfortunately limited set of characters and dive into an extraction-like game mode. You jump in, pack loot into a backpack with limited space, and get out before the going gets tough, or risk losing it all if you fail. The stickers system adds a new level of progression and character tuning, essentially layering this extraction shooter elements onto Wuthering Waves combat, adding a bit of depth to your exploration of the new area. You're picking and choosing what to engage with and managing how much time you want to spend during an extraction. Or at least that's the idea. The problem I feel is holding it back is that it plays like the devs were too scared to have you engage with that depth, as if the goal was to be as frictionless, convenient, and as efficient to complete as possible. But this is an extraction game mode. The friction is the point. But adding a greater difficulty isn't really the solution, I feel. The problem personally runs a lot deeper. To start things off, I want to go through a bit of my journey through this game mode to show the problems. As a story and tutorial pushed me into the world, I got loot by defeating enemies and opening chests. NPCs I found also dropped items when spoken to, and loot is stickers that come with various utilities and tiers of rarity. Some general power-ups, others character specialized. Also junk to sell for game mode currency. The Nami pawns serve as your new echo abilities, who you find throughout the map. I say fine, but these and various other things are already displayed on the map for you, so these end up just being checkboxes to collect rather than actual cool discoveries. There's also a gauge to manage, which depletes when taking damage from enemies. Reaching 0 means death. I can't recall a single point I had to pay attention to this though. It doesn't drain as you spend too much time in the area. There aren't toxic zones asking you to keep an eye on it or come back when you have a higher gauge. It just feels like it's just there. The only use I can think of is that you can spend some of it to pull random items from machines throughout the area, but as we'll soon discuss, I was drowning in so much loot for little effort, I never really bothered with these after the first two. As you remain in the zone, the area becomes more and more dangerous, with enemies becoming stronger as time goes on. But with how things were going in this extended tutorial, I was in and out before it could really matter. I was even destroying enemies before I had a chance to even switch characters. This was also the case with bosses. The game started me off with trial characters Zani, Phoebe, and Chisa, so I was trying to get into the groove of how this team would work together, but I wasn't getting that chance. I figured I'm still in this tutorial, maybe if I push through, the real game starts. As I continued, I could see there was definitely an effort to make this world not just feel like hallways you're running through in terms of aesthetics. Flooded streets and subway systems. The object density on display really sells that post-apocalyptic atmosphere. The problem though is that in terms of gameplay it might as well be hallways. I was basically moving from one cluster of enemies to the next with no variations in encounter design that got me thinking about who to engage and when, and nothing interesting in between. Like maybe having archer enemies covering a street with a boss on it from buildings on both sides. You can make the choice to engage head on, or search the buildings first to clear out the monsters and loot to give yourself an easier time with that boss. This also adds another element with the increasing difficulty at play the longer you're in the world. How am I doing on time? Can I afford to clear up buildings first? It also adds another layer since defeating a boss is the main way you open an extraction point to see yourself leave safely. So far, it felt like the standard overworld gameplay with inventory management. I was pushing through on autopilot, waiting for the part where I could take off the training wheels. But when you're done with the run and head back, it's here that the other half of the gameplay loop comes together. The items and stickers you acquire go into the warehouse, and you can start selling off items for more of that currency exclusive to this game mode. You use that currency to level your character sticker slots, upgrade skill trees, and to buy stickers and packs in the shop. It's also here that you can switch out your Nami pawns and characters. Once done, you jump back into the world to do it again, unlocking higher difficulty versions with better rewards as you go. I didn't touch anything in here though, as I just wanted to hurry up and get back into progressing the story so I could open the game mode up. I basically dumped everything where I could and moved on. I've never even read what these stickers do. Just pressed the auto button and figured I'd be tuning these later where they matter more. The thing is, it never actually got better. I was running in and out with so much loot, I barely had time to engage with anything out in the world. I defeated a few groups of mobs, backpack suddenly full, extract in just a few minutes. By the time I finished the tutorial and event story, I was already maxed out on just about everything and had nearly all the rewards. My characters had all their slots unlocked, the skill tree was maxed, and I also had some red tier stickers already equipped. I actually sat at the skill tree system for a few seconds in disbelief after maxing it. I said aloud in a Discord call with my brothers, no, there's definitely more to it. I don't believe this is it. Before the game mode even started, I was basically finished with it in terms of progression. There was one extra mode put into it after the story's completion where you go directly to Neon Tower, but this isn't anything special. It's just a gauntlet of bosses I've already been fighting for a year and a half now with no variation or new moves. Just a final boss with a variant of the False Sovereign, if you can call one new attack being a new variant. This game mode just feels tacked on. The final difficulty mode for the event unlocks though, so I jumped in just to see what it was all about, only with more of the same. Enemies dying before I could fully engage with this game's own combat system, drowning in so much highest tier loot it might as well be junk. I still never got to fully engage with the synergy behind the characters I used, but now it was all contextualized under no sense of progression since I already maxed everything out. And that recurring theme here is the problem. Wuthering Waves' new combat event never asked me to engage with any of its systems. I would even go as far as to say that the game is actually very scared of me feeling like I have to, scared of the friction that it might cause. As if the devs themselves are scared that everyone will quit the game if they have to do more than fall asleep on their own keyboards. It's player retention through rewards and completion, rather than raw engagement through gameplay. That's why I never had to read a single sticker, just tap the auto button. Never had to read any Namipon abilities or switch them out to better fit my style. The loot drops are plentiful and frequent enough that you don't have to earn it. The timer doesn't do anything but make the mobs take longer to die. Everything is marked on the map for you, so you don't have to actually explore. The Stranger Things in Honami event is built from the ground up to be frictionless, convenient, efficient. It's built to be safe. But for the record, again, I'm not asking for this to be Dark Souls or to be hyper difficult. I fear there should be a balance where you aren't feeling like you need to be on top of your game at all times, but you also aren't able to sleepwalk through everything. Like the Archer example I gave before, where you're making a decision in how to tackle scenarios, not just holding a W key. Tension, where the timer actually matters, making you decide when to best leave. The changes in weather, changing how I decide to continue my expedition. That's not making the game harder, that's asking the player to make decisions that matter. And good and rewarding gameplay is a series of player decision making. It's playing a video game. When you take all that away for fear of a player making a bad choice and suffering those consequences, what's the point? What's the point of each sticker having its own ability instead of just a stat boost? What's the point of a skill tree I don't have to read, just dump points in? This isn't accessibility. It's the game being scared of its own combat and gameplay. And because everything's so safe, it's hard for me to think of it as memorable. Just another event to complete for FOMO Gacha currency, and once I have all the currency, why keep playing? If Wuthering Waves truly wants to be remembered as one of the greats in 10 years, then it needs to stop being so terrified of letting its players play it.